Hey, it's Rick here to do a quick study on congruent figures and making sure that we can write congruency and similarity statements. So basically what you've got to figure out in these is just how do two figures that are either congruent or similar, how do we make sure that when we write a statement to tell that they are similar or congruent, to make sure we do that right. And a lot of that is dependent on making sure that you match up the corresponding parts, and I'll show you what that means here. So let's say I draw two triangles like this. Now, usually when you draw a triangle, you're gonna, or some other figure, you're going to see some sort of markings that let you know which pieces match to which. So I'm going to give these some quick labels. And you'll see markings on it. Maybe you'll see something like this. You also might see markings. So these are the markings you might see for an angle where you do like a curve and then lines. And so in this case, you would see that this point here, this angle and this angle match because they have one line each, and B and E match because they both have two lines. You also can sometimes see that they would mark it with one and then maybe mark it with two circles, and so that happens sometimes. The other thing you could do is mark the sides. So you might see something like this marked, and what that would do is show you that those two sides match up together. Okay. Now that would only be on congruent triangles as far as the side measurements go. Congruent triangles have all their sides and all their angles equal. Similar triangles have just their angles equal. So in that case, you would only see the angles matched up. But we're going to say that these are congruent to start with. Okay, so basically when you're writing similarity things, or when you're talking about corresponding parts, I guess, first, what you would talk about is which part matches which. Now, we already talked about how C matches up with D. We said that B matches up with E. And also, the only ones left would be A matching up with F. So those are the angles. Those angles match up. And then you can also talk about what sides match up. Well, we see that AB matches to FE. And I say them in that order because, like we saw before, A and F match and B and E match. Okay. Then the other lines that match up, well, AC matches up with which one? Well, I can look at my angles, or I can just look at the figures and say, oh, that would be FD. And then our final one would be BC matching up with ED. Okay. And those are all segments, so you need this little line. And whenever we're going to write a congruency statement, we're going to use this symbol here, and that symbol means that they are congruent. And when you write a congruency statement, you have to make sure that you keep the right order, especially on the second one. The first one you can write however you want, and if you're going to name a triangle, you write the letters of the triangle, and you put a little triangle symbol in front of it. Okay, triangles are the only ones that do that. Other figures with more sides, you don't have a symbol in front of them. But if I write ABC is congruent to, I have to do my triangle and then make sure that I pick them in the right order. So A matches up with F, B matches up with E, and C matches up with D. So that would be how I would do a congruency statement and how I can find corresponding parts on triangles. Now, if we were to do something else, say similarity, it would look a little different. And I'm going to show you similarity in just a second. Or let me just erase this and set it all up. So if I have similar triangles, again, the statement that we made is that similar triangles don't have equivalent sides. Their angles will be the same. Their sides aren't necessarily. And this time I'm going to do a trapezoid instead of a triangle, just so you can see what different figures look like. Okay, and I'll name this JKLM. and R, S, T, U. Okay, so again, what would happen is they would have to mark it in some way. So if we mark this angle, and then this angle with 2. Now, I want you to notice something. Here, it looks like J and M are the same size. But because they're marked differently, that means J and M are different sizes. So when I write my congruency statement, I got to be really careful. Okay? And then you'll probably have the other ones marked as well. I'll make sure I do this right. Okay, they also might tell you the angle measurements instead of marking them. But in this case, what does each one match up to? Well, angle J matches up to angle U. Angle K matches up to angle, T. Angle L matches up to angle S. And angle M matches up to angle R. And so again, if you're talking about, these are congruent, you could talk about corresponding sides as well. But if you're going to write a similarity statement here, and I want to tell you, you don't have to write them in alphabetical order, and you don't have to do them in any particular order, except that it has to be picking a starting spot and either going clockwise or counterclockwise around a figure. So if I wanted to start with L, I could do L, K, J, M. And this time it's not congruent, it's just similar, and this is the symbol we use for that. And then make sure that, again, that our pieces match up. So L matches up with S, K matches up to T, J matches up to U, and M matches up to R. So this would be our similarity statement here. Now sometimes it won't give you the particular angle measurements, especially in this when we're working on proportions. It might just give you the measurements of the particular sides. And if that's the case, that's not that hard to do. So let me draw another shape. Okay, and if I was to write that this is 8 centimeters, and this is 10 centimeters, and this is 4 centimeters, and this is, why did I pick 4 there? Here, I'm going to just scratch that. I'm going to say this is 4 and this is 5. Okay, and it would ask you a question like, are these proportional? And the way to check that out is to just make some proportions. So I do 8 over 10. And there will be some markings on this, but just to save us some time, I will tell you, these two sides match and these two sides match. So we want to make sure that we see 8 and 10 are on the same figure, so they will go on the same fraction. But 8 matches up with 4 on the other side, so 4 needs to go on the same side as the 8, and then I can write a 5 down here. These are proportional because if I double this and I double this, I would get 8 over 10. So yeah, these would be proportional in that case. So for now on this lesson, we're going to just mostly focus on if things are proportional and also matching up corresponding parts like we did on the first few sections. If you have any questions, you can ask one of the teachers when you get back to school. Otherwise, that'll be the end of this lesson, and we'll see you for the next lesson.